What's good, everyone? Rockness here, and welcome to the channel. I am new to the Division 2 content space, but I'm definitely not new to build crafting, min-maxing, and that sort of thing. I've spent years going deep into the math behind MMO builds, gear optimization, damage formulas, opportunity costs, and that kind of stuff that I think people typically skip over or maybe not that interested in. I think it's super impactful, to get the most out of your builds, right? To be able to perform the best of whatever content you're playing. As you can see, I've got a little bit of PvP in the background. I play about 50-50, right? 50% PvP content and then 50% PvE as well. I enjoy doing the harder legendary content, that sort of thing. So I have a lot of content coming, build breakdown, stat comparisons, that kind of thing. But I wanted to start with something that just dropped with the new season, the core strength gear set, and the mechanics and how I've been seeing people use it and how I actually think it's best used, right? So we're going to get into some pretty specific details in relation to this set. So overall impression, I think the set is super duper strong, right? The build you see on screen right now, obviously I'm crushing cats in PvP right now. And this build I took directly from doing Summit Floor 10 on Legendary because I wanted to farm some mods. All right, so as you'll see, I kind of just started the division a little bit less than a month ago, so I'm around Shade level 300, and I don't have the best rolls on stuff specifically. My mods are a little bit behind, so I've been doing a lot of mod farming on floor 10, and yeah, I took this build directly from that legendary content to PvP and made minimal changes, and I'm just having a blast, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the set itself, because it's the core set that's allowing me to do that, right? So what does the core set do? It's pretty straightforward. The 2-piece is going to give you 10% weapon handling. The 3-piece is giving you a little modest package of weapon damage, total armor, and skill efficiency. But the 4-piece, right, is where it gets super, super interesting. So for each core attribute you have equipped, you receive 40% of the other 2 cores bonuses. And what we're going to do, spoiler alert, we're going to always run the chest. Always run the chest. If you're running this package, just run the chest, okay? It gives you 75% of the other cores. And yes, that's up from 60. That was on the PTS. They gave us a buff, and the buff is insane. It gives you so much extra stats, so much stat density. That's how you can see I'm rocking 1 blue core on my build and still have 2 million armor from all the bonus stats that we're receiving, right? So that takes us to how do we want to build it out, right? The backpack. So the backpack, I actually don't think I have one in my inventory right now. But what the backpack does, the talent on the core set backpack, it just gives you 2 additional cores. So it gives you, the additional blue or yellow core, in the red core, right? Which is a cool talent. It's a talent without really being a talent. But what it does allow you to do is have those extra cores if you wanted to run a different exotic. Right, so if you wanted to run Coyote's Mask, or if you wanted to run the Overdog's Gloves, right, then the core set backpacks becomes a great option because you're still getting those 2 additional cores. And remember, for each one of those 2 additional cores, you're getting the set bonus, right? But if you're like me and you didn't plan on running a different exotic piece, then always slot in either the Ninja Bike backpack or the Memento, right? Because those are giving you the 2 additional cores plus an actual talent, right? Which is super strong. So I went with the Ninja you're going to see a lot of my builds coming up. I love the Ninja Bike. I think it's super cool. I think getting the most out of set bonuses and kind of seeing how you could package them together is super cool. It's super fun. And it allows for a lot of experimentation. So from the Ninja Bike, for those who don't know, it has the talent Resourceful, which is going to allow the bike to count as a gear piece for any set in the game, right? Gear set and brand set. So, in addition to that, as we said, it comes with 2 additional cores, one of which being skill tier, right? So, let's start to piece this together. We're getting 1 additional skill tier from the Ninja Bike. As you can see, I slotted in the Picaros. Keep in mind, the Picaros is so strong by itself that people run it in full red builds, right? Because of the weapon damage is such a good source of multiplicative damage that even if you're running full red, people are willing to throw away essentially the set bonus. Even if they're not running a skill build, they're willing to throw away the set bonus because the multiplicative damage from weapon damage is so strong. Okay, it's the same thing people do with like the Frox's pair of knee pads, as well as the gloves that give like I don't remember if it's detox or damage to armor, but so similar concept, same thing. That's why we're rocking the Bacaros. But that's where I really started to get the cooking, right? I was like, hold up. I'm getting the 2-set bonus because of the Ninja Bike, which is giving me, as you can see, kind of disregard the core attribute I rolled on. The Bacaros by itself is giving me an additional skill tier from its 2-piece bonus, right? So from the Ninja Bike plus Bacaros, I'm at skill tier 2 for free. So then we're like, okay, well, why don't we slide in the Technician, right? And now we're at 3 skill tiers for free. Before we've done any actual core allocations, before we even dove into what we planned on doing with the build, we just started at 3 free skill tiers, which is super sick. Okay, so that brings us to our first decision point, and it's how are we going to fill out the rest of those core attributes? We could either go your typical all red, right? Let's just go 6 reds, max damage, hell yeah, let's do it, right? Or we could try to go with what I did, as you can see, is spec into the 6 skill tiers, get the maximum skill damage boost and efficiency and all those buffs onto our skills, and because we're running the Capacitor, we do get a little bit of weapon damage as compensation, right, from the Capacitor talent. As you can see, we get 7.5% weapon damage for each skill tier that we have. So, but what's better, right? What's better? What is going to get us more damage? A lot of people, from what I've seen, are, they're stuck in, 6 reds is the most damage. 6 reds is the most damage. Well, let's take a look at that, okay? Let's take a look at that. Here's a quick recap as to what exactly you're getting from each individual core, from the core set. Mind you, this is with the chest talent active, so it's 75%. If you don't rock the chest, it'll be significantly lower because you'll be down to 40%, right? So for each red core, you're getting its base value. You are getting the 15% weapon damage. For each blue core, you're getting the same, your base value, your 170k armor. But what you're getting from the gear set is the bonus value of the other 2 cores. So from one red core, I'm getting my full 15% weapon damage plus 127.5k armor plus 11.25 skill efficiency. And for those who don't know, skill efficiency is all the skill, attributes wrapped into one. So it's skill damage, skill duration, skill health, right? All that good stuff. Skill haste, that's all wrapped into one stat. So you're getting 11.25% of all of that, right? Super sick, super good. That's how you get so stat dense, okay? So, like I said, well, let's go into our comparison as to should we run full red or max out our skill tiers, right? Because there's an argument for both. Or at least you think there's an argument for both. So here's what it goes, right? And here's why yellow beats red on this build particularly, okay? So from 6 red cores, you're going to get 15% a pop. So that's your 90% direct weapon damage, right? So from your core set bonus, because you do still have the 2 non-red cores, which are the blue and the yellow core from the Ninja Bike. So that's 22.5% damage. Remember, because it's 11.25% for each additional core. We have 2 of them. Then we go back to our Capacitor at 7.5% per yellow core per skill tier. We get up to 22.5% additional damage. So our total weapon damage from having 6 red cores is 135%. The way that I spec my build out is with 3 red cores. So 3 red cores at 15% a pop is 45% damage. Then from our core set bonus, because I have 5 non-red cores, I'm getting 56.25% additional weapon damage. Because I'm getting 11.25 for each non-red core, and I have 5 of them, okay? And on top of that, I now have 6 skill tiers, so from our Capacitor, I'm going 6 skill tiers at 7.5% a pop is 45% weapon damage. So my total weapon damage on my setup is 146.25% versus an all-red setup, which would be 135%. And that doesn't even, and then on top of that, that doesn't even take into account the fact that I'm getting more damage from my skills and more benefits for my skills because I have tier 6 skills now, right? So when I go into PvP, I have a tier 6 Stinger Hive that's, annoying the crap out of the whole lobby, right? When I go into PvP, I'm doing legendary content, right? My striker drone, my attack turret, they're hitting like a truck. It's super convenient, super nice, and yeah, yellow all the way, every time. If you're doing a build like this, yellow's going to beat red every time. The numbers don't lie, okay? So that takes us to our next decision tree, and that's, now that we have our cores figured out, it's our attributes, right? What do we want to do with our rollable attributes? So on this build, as you can see, we have 9 rollable attributes considering the mods, right? So we have 6 attributes from our gear slots, as well as the 3 mods for our helmet, chest, and backpack. So let's take a look. So we have 2 decision trees again. We could either go for a crit profile, right? Your crit damage, your crit hit chance, all that good stuff, your standard like DPS damage profile. Or you could go into your skill damage, right? We're already skill tier 6, so you could try to maximize and optimize your skill damage. So let's take a look at the comparison between the 2, right? And here's where we get to get a little nerdy and kind of crunch some numbers. So regardless of if you spec into the additional skill damage, because we have all those stats from core strength and the 6 skill tiers, we're starting. Our base skill damage is 230%. Either way, right? So from our 9 rolls, if we do 5 crit hit chance and 4 crit hit damage, we're essentially able to get to a 31% effective crit, right? Because effective crit, and mind you, that's also incorporating the crit hit damage from the capacitor itself, right? I think the capacitor itself gives 30% extra crit hit damage. So it's a lot. This is actually kind of a deeper topic. I'll probably make a shorter video just on this topic alone. But what you need to know is your effective crit hit damage, is going to be your crit hit chance multiplied by your crit hit damage, right? Because you could have a bajillion million crit hit damage, but if your crit hit chance is 0, right? 0 times a gajillion million is 0, right? You're not actually getting any benefit. So, and bonus tip, which we'll kind of maybe cover in a later video, you essentially mathematically always want your crit hit damage to be double your crit hit chance, right? That's how you're going to get the maximum effectiveness out of those 2 values, right? So the way I'd spec mine out, I'm essentially getting 31% effective crit damage, and that's kind of that's what you get per bullet, right? So my expected value is 31% crit on every bullet. No ramp, no anything. Versus the 80% skill damage would be the other way to go, right? And it's 80%. Notice it's 80%, not 90%, even though I said 9 rolls, because your helmet, in my case, right? But whatever gear piece that you have the double roll on available, remember, you can't double up on skill damage on that roll, right? So you can have a maximum of 8 slots allocated to skill damage, which is cool, right? Going up to 310% skill damage is cool if that's what you want to do. I found that, especially on Legendary, my skills were just getting absolutely punished anyways. So I think that uptime mixed with, kind of some wonky AI targeting at times, right? I just felt like taking the 30% effective damage increase per bullet was a little bit better for me, right? I think that it was a little bit more consistent, raises my floor, and that's how I prefer to run my build. But if you want to lean skill damage, by all means. So let's get into my build specifically. Like I said, we're running the capacitor, detox, right? We have the UA is one of my 2 additional red cores. So weapon damage, crit hit chance, crit hit damage with a terrible, like I said earlier, terrible crit hit chance mod. We're trying to get those up a little bit. We're running the core strength with the skill tier and the crit hit chance. My piece of resistance, my Procaros. I just happened to catch a decent crit hit chance roll on the attribute, so I rolled skill tier onto the core attribute. It was just easier to put the build together that way for me. Skill tier again on the knees with crit hit chance, and weapon damage crit hit chance on the gloves, right? So we can take a look at the stats. As you can see, I'm super suboptimal. I'm about 50% crit hit chance, but obviously my crit hit damage is super low. So my ratio is a bit off. So this is the example, right? For 49% crit hit chance, for a 78% crit hit damage, I'd want to be closer to 100% crit hit damage is going to kind of pull me into the optimal range for my specific crit profile, right? Obviously, I know this game caps you at 60. But long story short, we'll get into why. I would have more effective damage if I actually drop my crit hit chance a little bit and raise my crit hit damage. Right? It's probably one roll. I'm probably one roll off from being more optimal. But that's something like I said, we'll go over at a later time. I do want to get into a quick how I do my damage calcs, right? So I've went into Reddit, I've went into the Ubisoft forums themselves, right? And there's kind of some inconsistencies, but from the best I could find for the damage calculation, it's going to be your base weapon damage times your additive weapon damage, AR damage, and like your additive brand bonuses. Then you're going to re-multiply again by your crit hit damage, your headshot damage, and this is one where it was super conflicting information. I don't know if your crit hit damage and headshot damage are in the same multiplicative bracket, in the same additive bracket that you're going to multiply from. That's something I'll probably do some testing on shortly to get a definitive answer. But then you have an additional damage bucket of your damage to armor, and then an additional damage to bucket as to your damage to targets out of cover. And even those, in my mind, you would think would be in the same bracket, but from what I saw, they weren't. So that's something else I kind of want to look at. Always remember when you're doing your damage calc that you're adding 1 to whatever additive number that you're doing, right? The best way to explain that is because obviously if you're multiplying, right? So obviously you're not going to multiply by 10% because you would get a lower number than what you started with, and it's additive, right? So for example, if we had 100% base weapon damage and we got 10% bonus AR damage, you're not going to go 100 times 0.1, which is 10%, and be like, oh, well, now my damage is 10. That wouldn't make sense, right? So you add 1. So it would be 100 weapon damage times 1.1, which is your 10% plus 1. So 1.1, which would get you 110, right? So that's how that would work. And then you would go, so you could add all those add all those sources, multiply, add these sources, right? So you go down, and that's how your damage spirals up, right? So that's how you're hitting into the millions and millions and millions, right? So that's kind of how my working knowledge of the damage calc goes from what I've seen online. If you guys please let me know if you have, better information than I have, correct me so that we make sure that we're working with the correct formulas moving forward. But like I said, this is what I found to this point, and I plan on doing some more testing within the firing range and kind of manipulating some attributes to see exactly what's going on within the game's damage calculation itself, right? So that's pretty much all I have. I appreciate you guys tuning in. This one was a little bit longer than I think I would like to make them. I like to be pretty detailed with the numbers, but without the intros and the kind of the base damage calc, I think we'll keep those to separate videos moving forward and just kind of focus more on the builds themselves. Looks like we've got a lot of, So as you see, I play a lot of conflicts. Like I said, expect PvP builds, expect PvE builds, expect a lot of knowledge-based content because we want to know definitively what's better than what, right? I want to know definitively how we can squeeze the most damage and get the highest performance out of what we're doing, because I think, at the end of the day, if you build different, you hit different, right? It's going to make content easier. It's going to make the game more enjoyable. It's going to make PvP enjoyable for those who might be a little scared to kind of dive into it. And I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and I hope that you guys enjoy it too. Let me know if there's anything else you guys would want to see, how we could improve and kind of give you guys what you're looking for. And with that, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.